Okie dokie stogie. What's going on, everybody, on this 420 day? I hope you guys are doing well. In the words of EC3, all wrestling fans, I wondered if you're tombstone or not. Anyways, how's it going? You guys see the title of this video? This is called Shooting the Shit. I call it the Daily Hour. We can call it whatever we want. On this hiatus of the pro wrestling experience. Anyways, my name is Josh Lopez. You guys should know me by now. I write for WrestlingZone.com. I used to host the pro wrestling experience at ChicagoLandSportsRadio.com. But more importantly, I'm an overwhelmed swell guy. I like playing music, and I'm a Chicago White Sox fan. So that's what you need to know about me. Anyways, before we get started, as always, make sure to follow all the people that you support for what they do for a living. Like, if you generally support them, support them. Don't follow people just to follow people. I'm not telling you in the social media sense. I just mean in general. Keep those positive vibes going no matter what day it is. Just because it's a Wednesday doesn't mean you can't have a positive day. Just because it's a Monday night doesn't mean you can't enjoy Raw because you had a shitty day at work. Keep those positive vibes going and you should be straight. Anyways, as always, when I'm on these YouTube videos, I'm joined by my good brother from Wrestling With, the one and only, the myth and legend himself, Adam Daley. What's going on, buddy?
Josh, what up, man? I don't know if I've hit myth or legend status yet. Maybe, I guess, for people to make fun of, which is cool. Everybody, happy 420. I got my Bob Marley representing today, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody, so pump the redemption song loud today. Enjoy your day. I mean, listen, and it's positive mental attitude, man. Life's too short to be cranky all the time and talking about other people. And like Josh said, support. The biggest thing is, like, especially when we talk about wrestling, we always, as soon as somebody leaves wrestling, we instantly, for some reason, turn on them. Let's support these men and women no matter what they do. So, Josh, call on that one, brother. Also,
I'm representing the NWO, and they were definitely high when they got 40 people in the faction. So that's high representation for that.
I can even imagine some of those parties, brother. I probably wouldn't have lived to tell about it.
I was like 2 years old when that faction started, so sorry to make everybody feel old here.
I was a little straight edge kid when that faction happened, so I wouldn't have been doing much partying. I would have been ostracized very quickly.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to. We'll talk about Raw. We'll talk about Payback. If you have any questions, please, by all means, shoot it away at WC Josh Lopez or Adam Daley 13. We'll try to answer those questions the best of our abilities here on this 420 day. And no, I'm not high. I just want to make that perfectly clear. Man, that's going to be 420 is one of those days. It's just like everybody just tries to outdo themselves with ridiculousness on the posts of how high they are. It's funny. I mean, 420 is one of those really funny holidays that just make no sense whatsoever.
No, you know what's funny for me about it is that if you actually are a weed smoker, 420 is just another day, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's also funny when people are like, "Oh, I'm so tired of hearing about weed posts." Okay, well, if you want to do that, let's talk about what else happened on this day in history. We could talk about Columbine. We could talk about Hitler being born today. So shut up and just enjoy the humor.
Yeah, we could talk about the New York primaries and all the great debates that are going on right now, too.
No.
Please. Bad news.
I carry hot sauce around in my purse. No, you don't.
Literally everything in the city of Chicago that is actually going down next week, because we have the primaries in Chicago next week. We got the NFL draft. We got Payback in Chicago next Sunday. So if you guys are not doing anything, make sure to make the travel plans to Chicago for you international wrestling fans. I always say this to a lot of people. I've been to Madison Square Garden before for a wrestling show, and nothing compares to a wrestling environment than the Allstate Arena, or as I call it, the Rosemont Horizon. It's the best wrestling arena in the United States, hands down.
Josh, I will second that because, and granted, it's been 10 years because it was 22 that I was up for WrestleMania, but I still, and it is subjective because it's a smaller arena versus the larger stadiums. But there was, out of all the manias I've been to, the vibe inside that arena at 22, there was nothing that I've ever experienced. Even at old school ECW shows here, that whatever you want to talk about. But I mean, there's WrestleMania, you figure what, 14, 15,000 people versus what, 80,000, 100,000 people this year. Changes the game a little bit. That Raw the night after really is WrestleMania, dude. And your city's fantastic for it. It really is.
In Chicago's also with the crowd has actually helped a lot of the like smaller pay-per-views get some steam. Like for example, the second Money in the Bank was in Chicago. People say Money in the Bank was probably the best pay-per-view WWE's had since one of those WrestleManias for the Attitude Era. So I'm saying something in it. Even though I don't agree with it, we've had 3 out of the last 4 paybacks, including this one on Sunday. So with established that one, Extreme Rules, I could go on and on. But honestly, if you're a wrestling fan, Allstate Arena, Chicago, Illinois is a bucket list item for you. Trust me.
And you know what, Josh? Before we move on, real quick, let me ask you a question. Do you think there would? You brought up something there that made sense to me. You know, we have all these like people call them filler pay-per-views or in between pay-per-views. Would you put those in some of the bigger cities? And when I say bigger cities, I mean the more active cities, your Brooklyn, Philadelphia, your Chicago, you know, those cities, and then save stuff like the Rumble, save stuff for, you know, your larger pay-per-views for cities where typically you're not going to get like a Pittsburgh where it's going to be 50-50. You're either hot or cold, but if you give us the Rumble, we're going to be hot because people from Cleveland are coming in, people from Buffalo are coming in, people are, you know, kind of get it from a little all over the place. Do you think there might be something to that? Because then it would make every pay-per-view almost feel a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I can see that happening. At the same time, like for the Rumble, you can have it in like what was it? The San Francisco where the Warriors play. You can have it there in Oakland. That's not a bad idea. Or you could have it in Houston, Texas. Who knows? I would say LA, but like sometimes they're hot, like really like loud and like obnoxious, and then sometimes they're like cold, like they were a couple weeks ago on Raw. But it just depends. It really does. My issue with the Rumble like locations recently has all been on the East Coast. There's like no diversity whatsoever. No offense to East Coast. I know, brother, you're East PA member here, but
no. Well, I'm Western Pennsylvania. I'm actually only about a half hour from Ohio. But I'm right in between you and New York, so I'm like right in median. But I still consider myself more East Coast than anything else. But you know what? I will agree. Yeah, there is a bias with the East Coast with a lot of their bigger pay-per-views. Mania is the only one it seems like, but really WrestleMania for the most part, it's rarely on the West Coast. You know,
there's a lot of bias in the PR department when it comes to East Coast media departments, but we're not going to go in there.
Not that I'll ever see. I'm too small, man. We're not a big enough deal yet. We'll never be. So you know, it's.
Before we get started, guys, make sure to check out Adam's show, Wrestling With. It's on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, depending when Adam, Sam record the show. They got some great correspondents. Roddy Stark, who was a former guest of my show, The Pro Wrestling Experience. Also Patrick Fritz, who sometimes disguises as Bane. If you haven't heard his Bane voice, it's definitely worth the watch. Trust me.
That's Patrick? I don't think that's I listen. Pat is such he's an honest man, and he wouldn't lie to me about not showing up to an event or to a show. Sometimes he gets busy, and Bane has to fill in. That's all.
Yeah, we're all busy, especially Mr. PWF.
I like keeping the kayfabe alive there. The kayfabe is strong.
We also have some sporadic appearances for the staff of WrestlingRumors.net. I think Batman Alias was on the show as well last night too, so that was pretty funny. Check it out. It's Wrestling With. If you need something to entertain you on a Tuesday night instead of indulging yourself in TNA, by all means, give those guys a chance. We'll talk about TNA later on because my brain's gonna explode later on in this program. Anyway, let's get to what's going on with WWE right now, because that's it's what drives the needle, and obviously the business has been picking up for the E for the last 3 weeks. Just in general, Adam, we don't need to go match by match, segment by segment breakdown or whatever, but just in your general consensus, since the past 3 weeks since WrestleMania, what's your general thoughts of what's been going on right now? And do you like it or you don't?
I love it. I love it. I think that people are being too short-sighted on the fact that Roman Reigns is champion. I think that, yeah, okay, I'm not, I know I sound like a broken record. I'm not a Roman Reigns fan, guys. I'm going to bring up a very interesting point later on that we'll discuss later on. But I think that everyone's so short-sighted on Roman Reigns holding the championship right now that you're missing a lot of really, really good things. And I think that right now, that mid card to even like the lower card, like stuff the Social Outcasts are doing, little stuff that they're doing on the network, on YouTube, the weekly Michael Cole interviews. There's so much good that the WWE is doing right now, and Raw in particular, I think has been phenomenal. And I think the fact that there's so many question marks and they keep taking us in all these different directions that people feel like, well, I don't know where I'm going from a week-to-week basis. Yeah, it's awesome. It is amazing. And the fact that we're still sitting here, and we'll break down individual things, but just look at, Anderson and Gallows, the impact that they've made. And right now, not knowing, and just with 2 appearances, we have, are they going to turn on AJ? Are they going to be with AJ? Are we getting the Bullet Club? Are they going to be with Reigns? Are they going to attack this person? There's so much getting thrown around with just 2 men. And that's just 2 men. And there's so many layers, I think, right now that if people would just stop complaining about Roman Reigns and just really kick back and look at what's going on, I think the product's been really, really good. But and Josh, do you feel like this has really just been the last 3 weeks, or has this been going on for a while? People just haven't seen it.
I think it's been going on for a while, actually, to be honest with you. I think it's been going on since the last 6-7 months, to be honest with you. And I'm just speaking from my perspective because I cover these shows in depth. So I take like the super like overthinking, oversensitive, overreacting wrestling perspective out of that. I try to look at the bigger picture things. I have a different perspective on wrestling than other people. I mean, if you into that over assuming things, I mean, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. But for me, like especially with like SmackDown and like a lot of other shows, not everything that's of importance has to happen on Monday Night Raw, and not everything that brings these storylines together happens on Monday Night Raw. If you look at SmackDown, and even before Mario Ronaldo came into the commentary booth, SmackDown has been really bringing in as to why these storylines are happening. Good wrestling matches, younger guys getting a spotlight. I can't count you the number of times Kevin Owens has main evented a SmackDown over the last year. So there's WWE, as far as an entertainment company, because that's what it is. It's no longer a professional wrestling company. It gives you everything that you want in different platforms at the same time. If you want character development, check out Michael Cole's show on WWE.com or on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. If you want good wrestling and you want the pro wrestling logic and all that, watch SmackDown. Raw, like I said it, and I said it to you before, is a weekly corporate telethon show for the WWE Network. It is. You get a sample of what it is. Sometimes you'll debut new products like Anderson and Gallows. It gets people thinking. You tie into some people's past. Hey, they're giving you what you want. So if you really think about it, they're giving you what you want. We want the Bully Club. We heard it all through the fall. We heard it all through the road to WrestleMania. We want the Bully Club. When are they coming? When are they coming? When are they coming? They're here. They're giving you what you want. Instead of neglecting what they did in the past and stalling and beating, not insulting our intelligence that these guys were not best friends with AJ Styles or whatever. They're right off the bat. The second show they're on, they're already with the guy, And
I do like that JBL was making mention of, and granted, they never said Bullet Club. They said, oh, the band's back together, all old friends. They kept teasing. Yeah, so that way, if you're a casual fan, wait, I got to find out what's going on. Your hardcore fans absolutely know what's going on, but there are little things. As much as we claim to hate, and the announcers, we don't like how the announcing, they are really they're storytellers now too. And I know a lot of times it doesn't make sense because they're talking about. We've talked about this before. Look, my biggest problem, and I think we agree with this, is a lot of times they're talking over a match for a different program. for a different, feud that's going on. That's the only time that but if you look at what they've been doing with all the new talent, guys that they've been bringing up from NXT, guys and girls that they've been bringing up from NXT, all these fresh faces, they're making sure that the casual fan that might not be, on the dirt sheets all the time or watch all these shows, or they're making sure people know who they are and the history of them, where they came from. And I think that's important.
I remember like so many times where I would listen to these shows, whether it's like your guys' show or a lot of wrestling shows where they're like, oh my God, we have all these questions of why they're doing this, why they're doing that, why they're doing this, why they're doing that. That's the point of wrestling. That's the part of entertainment. You got to join the journey. You can't have the answer right off the bat once the feud starts. It happens over time. You can't just automatically assume that this is going to happen when the feud barely started. You know what I mean? They want you to have questions. They want you to know why this person is doing this and why this person is not doing that. That's the whole part of the whole business. And when it comes to Roman Reigns, like for me, like I agree with you. I'm not the biggest fan of the guy. I've always said this. I enjoy Roman Reigns for what he does in the ring. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. Simple as that. And then also with this new thing he's doing now, he's doing something that John Cena stalled for 8 years to do. He's embracing your hate. So you don't even have to like the guy. And the guy doesn't give a shit. Check out the USA commercial that they aired before he came out. That he's going to do what he has to do, but you will respect what he does in the ring at the end of the day.
And it's smart for them to grab onto that now, because he was getting the Cena comparisons, and rightfully so. I mean, it's not that he is John Cena or that, but it's just the way that they're being pushed, because again, guys, they're characters, and Josh, we've talked about this so much, that it's the character similarities, not obviously the men or women that are involved. But I think that with Reigns, dude, it's here, just like you said, I'm not going to put him in one of my favorites. I'm not going to say he's the best that they have, but he's best for business. That's why they keep saying that. And I know people are going to go, no, he's not. That's why he is. Guys, they're having a man that they want to be the corporate face of the company. He's an amazing father. He's put up with a lot of crap over the past 2 years when you really think about it. This dude's character has to be, and I don't mean character character as a
mentality,
off the charts. I mean, just for how much he's put up with. And when they were in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, and they did a couple spots. Ronnie, that's on our show, he knew some guys that worked his backstage plants, with Reigns, and they said he's an amazing guy. And I think that what we have to look past is, in WWE, we're never going to have the best wrestler as champion, because it's not a wrestling company, guys. It's an entertainment company. And they are making more money with Roman Reigns being showered with booze, and it's being talked about more than they would if it was on somebody else.
And also, to add to that, Roman Reigns is the most talked about person in wrestling for the last 3 years, positive or negative. And I'm not saying that everything he does is great. Like his character is hit and miss for me. I'm liking what he's doing now on the promos recently, especially recently. But from character standpoint, okay, he's not the greatest mic guy. The Rock's promos were cliche a lot, but people bought into it. They say Rock is one of the greatest talkers of all time, but Rock said the same shit all the time he is on television.
And he still does. I'm not going to lie, and I'm sorry, any Rock fans out there, but I watched a little bit of the MTV Movie Awards. Yeah, to see the Suicide Squad extended thing. That's why I watched it. And I like Kevin Hart, but The Rock's shtick to me is so old. It's like not even, because it's basically his wrestling character now that he's doing everywhere. And dude, that's not Dwayne Johnson. That was The Rock. And if that is Dwayne Johnson, no offense, you're one of the biggest phonies I've ever seen, because nobody's that happy all the time. And why are you taking so many selfies, dude? Do you love yourself that much? Sorry, I had to put that in.
It's all good.
Did he break a world record for the most selfies or something?
Yes, yeah, Guinness World Record.
Come on, man. Come on.
Going back to this Reigns thing, like, he's the most talked about guy. For example, whenever you listen to wrestling podcasts, what's the majority of that content of that podcast? Arguing about his booking, arguing about his position in the company, arguing about whether he should be in this position or not, or arguing is he the reason why ratings are going down. He's the most talked about guy, positive or negative, and that's saying something. Look, CM Punk's my favorite wrestler. He was the most talked about guy in wrestling when he was around, and that's why he became the star he became, even after leaving WWE. Roman Reigns, I'm not going to compare Roman Reigns to CM Punk. I'm not dumb. I'm not stupid. Trust me. My point is, you don't have to like the guy. That's the point. He's saying, you don't want to like me? Fuck you. I'm going to do what I have to do to keep my championship and support my family. And I'm sure people can relate to that. If you work in a business, I'm sure there's somebody like Roman Reigns that you've ran into. Like, and I'm not sure. Like, you used to work at the phone industry. Have you ran into people like Roman Reigns? Like, I mean, there's people that
in business.
Yeah,
that is business. It's nothing but greedy bastards that will lie and undercut you and wear you to the bone. Yeah, I mean, but that's business. That's any corporate business. I mean, that's, we live in a society that it's a very, very self-serving society.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do things for anybody else anymore. It's all about themselves. And that's why, things that we talked about before we even went live, I think that's why we live in the world that we do today. Everybody is self-servant. Everybody only cares about themselves only.
Exactly.
And it's not about, there is no team environment. There is no family environment. It's basically, what am I going to do? It drives me nuts when I see and this is where I know that, and this is off wrestling, but you know how we always tie stuff in, but this is the perfect example. Life is the life now has become about branding yourself, period. I know it's bad when people in their 50s and 60s for some reason need a Facebook account just to feel cool, or like a Snapchat just to feel like, I don't have Snapchat. I wish I didn't have to use Facebook for stuff. I wish I didn't have to use Twitter for stuff, to be honest. Like, I love communicating with everybody. Please don't take it the wrong way. But in a way, like, I like my privacy, so I don't do Snapchat. I don't do any of these other, but there's like 60-year-olds doing this that have no business. Like, we have family members, add me on Snapchat. I don't have Snapchat. You're 70. Why do you have Snapchat? I thought it was for pedophiles,
Yeah, Snapchat's going to last longer than you are. You're doing some of the service. I my stance on social media. I can't stand it. It's really showing how fucked up of the society we really are, because we get so oversensitive and protective over things we have no control or say over. And you know what, at the same time, like, I don't want to be on Facebook. I forget to log out, and the only reason I'm on the freaking thing is to promote my stuff, to be honest with you. And it's a good gauge of conversation. I mean, I could text Adam if I want. Facebook's the easy option to contact Adam. Like, I'm only on social media for my media business. I want my own privacy. I don't talk a lot about my personal stuff unless it's with Adam or people I actually trust. But it's like the bad thing with social media too, at the same time, when you don't want things to be spoiled for you, it's all in your fucking face.
And not only that, we're allowing social media to determine our opinions, and we've talked it so many times, but this is the perfect example. And this is how I'm going to spin it, rather than keep waxing poetic about how social media is really, and we're allowing it, guys. Don't blame. I'm done blaming media. I'm done blaming all these other things. We're the ones that are buying into it. But here's a really good point. And Josh, I want to get your opinion on this. Right now, everybody for some reason is so into Baron Corbin. And listen, I get it. Okay, I'm not a Baron Corbin fan. But I want to ask you, brother, who do you think right now is, I don't want to say better, but who do you think is in your opinion is a better talent, Roman Reigns or Baron Corbin?
I think Roman Reigns, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think that, I don't even think there's a question, because I'm not impressed by Baron Corbin at all.
My issue with Corbin is, like, he tries to go the Brock Lesnar route, and he's like, my issue with Corbin is that he doesn't have the love for the business. Roman Reigns can do what Roman Reigns does, but he actually loves wrestling and he loves being a wrestler. So I'll go with Roman Reigns on that end.
I think my issue with Corbin is his receding hairline that they try to cover up. No, but the reason why I bring up the two comparisons is because we tend to sit here and defend all the newer NXT alum. People forget that Roman Reigns is an NXT alum. But we want to sit here and we want to defend all these new NXT alums because it was the trendy, it was almost like the hipster thing for a while was NXT. And that's the shame of it, is like NXT is there for there's a purpose for NXT, you know.
Yeah.
And if you like NXT but don't like other independents, you're missing the point of NXT too. So my thing is that I think Roman Reigns is about 30 times ahead of Baron Corbin, but yet everybody's talking about how awesome Baron Corbin is and he's so great and he's got this bright future. Roman Reigns is and this is no disrespect to either of these men, but Roman Reigns is 30 times the performer Baron Corbin is. Why are people all over Baron Corbin and then down talking Roman Reigns? It absolutely does. It boggles my mind.
Yeah,
and I mean, similar body type, similar style. I honestly think if you gave Roman Reigns Baron Corbin's entrance, Roman Reigns is the biggest star in the company.
I watched the show Breaking Ground on the WWE Network, which Baron Corbin's journey to the main roster was really documented. And my opinion of him was the same even when I saw him on NXT when he was having 13-second matches. So I mean, Baron Corbin is Baron Corbin. I do like that they're showing video packages for him already, and obviously Corbin will get better in time working with guys like Ziggler. Who knows who he battles next? But you know, going back to something, I there's a podcast called Raw Reaction on the WrestleZone Radio Network with Forbes writer Alfred Cudwell, who's one of my favorite wrestling media personalities. He's really, really good at what he does for a living. And he and the host Nick Hausman got into a debate about just kind of like a race type of mindset towards who should be pushed and who should not be pushed in a way. Like, I don't know if it's true, and I'm not saying it's true or not. It was his opinion. He's entitled to his opinion. But have you two noticed at times where kind of like the media in wrestling kind of disintegrates certain talent unless they're this or that?
No,
you know what I mean?
Yes. Something
like that.
Yes.
Like for his example, why can't Big E be a world champion, but we need somebody like Kevin Owens, Cesaro, Miz, Dolph Ziggler, all white? You see where I'm going here, Adam? Like, I don't know if you've noticed that, but I kind of agree with him to a certain extent. I'm Puerto Rican, and I don't understand why more Latinos can have the opportunity to be a world champion. And kind of the same thing, those same media members have an issue with Roman Reigns. He's Samoan. He should be in that because he's not white. I've noticed that. I trust me, I know it from personal experience actually working in the media business that people disgenerate and degrade people for what they are. Hell, I've dealt with myself where people degrade me for my age. They're saying I should be in the positions I'm in because of how young I am and this and that. Have you noticed that with wrestling? Because I've noticed a lot of these anger towards these certain talents come from race and this overall ignorance.
I'll say this. This is a complex. This is definitely complex. So I'm gonna break it down a couple different ways. I think, you know, because this is always the age-old question: is there racism in the WWE? I think the easiest answer and probably the most right answer is just as much as there is in any everyday life, any other business, basically meaning if you want to look for it, it's there. If you don't want to look for it, it's not there. It really depends on your viewpoint in life. And as far as WWE goes, you know, other than The Rock, they have never had a black, WWE champion. And guys, I say black because my family's mixed, and African American is very offensive to them because they've been born here for generations. That's why I say black and not African American. Let's clear that out before PC police comes after me. I'm sorry, my family that's black has been here generations before my Italian and Irish people came over here. So let's kind of cut the shit with the whole.
Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican and we're part African American too at the same time.
You know what I mean? But
my issue when it comes to entertainment, I understand where you're coming from, especially from a business. I'm not ripping WWE. I'm talking about this media and wrestling in general. That's just where I'm going with. And I feel like, why do you have to segregate certain guys?
Josh, I absolutely
your agenda.
I do agree with you because if you look at guys like Bobby Lashley when he was in WWE, should have been pushed to the moon. You know, and what they do, give him the ECW championship when it meant nothing. December to December, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Look, Apollo Crews is a guy that I think could rise to the top. Hell, look, once New Day does split up, and I know everybody hates that, and it's a scary thing, but I would love to see Big E get pushed. I would love to see Big E get pushed to the moon. I'd love to see all those guys. When Kofi had a push years ago, when he was feuding with Randy Orton, that was one where I was like, okay, they're going to run with him, but it's not just color. I don't think. I do think that it is more so when you look at WWE. The majority of their champions have been from North America, whether it be Canada, the United States, or Mexico. Sheamus was the first Irish-born, WWE champion. We've yet to have anyone from Great Britain, or anyone from England, and is WWE champion. And think about how much awesome talent we've gotten from there. I don't think we've had an Asian WWE champion yet. So when you look at it, it depends on how you want to look at it. I do think that there is a glass ceiling for certain talent, and let's look at it. A lot of the reason why CM Punk, and I don't think it's necessarily it has to do with race or color or whatever. A lot of Punk's issues and the reason why he wasn't pushed sooner was because he had tattoos. Well, what did they say? He looked like he pumped gas at a gas station. Daniel Bryan
looked like a short order cook at a Waffle House.
Listen, a corporate structure that WWE wants, they want the pretty boy, clean-cut, John Cena-looking thing that they think that what people want. But I don't believe that's
true, though.
No, absolutely not. True? No, in a corporate apps.
I'm not talking about the corporate side. I'm just saying in general, because obviously they've embraced a lot of diversity on their roster over the last 5 years.
Yes,
my stance is not against the WWE. And if for those who are listening, please interact with me and Adam. I want to get your thoughts on this as well for everybody else out there that's tuning in. It's an interesting conversation because I don't know. Like sometimes I feel like in wrestling, we go through this cycle of bullshit each week where we have to get in these long debates about. This guy doesn't belong because he doesn't fit the certain agenda and narrative that our company wrestling site or the wrestling business has to be. I mean, nobody takes the time to embrace diversity or give things a chance. Oh, no, we have to go by the formula. We have to go by this. We got to go by that.
Here's a funny story, and I'll break down a fourth wall for you. I sat down with the CEO of the company that I used to work for. I don't know. Maybe it's a pink wireless company, but you guys might have noticed that company is was the first company to allow piercings and tattoos in the workplace. All of a sudden, they were wearing T-shirts and jeans. Not saying I had anything to do with that, but let's just say I ended up with a big bullseye on my back because of it. So you guys can fill in the blanks there. There absolutely is a corporate structure, guys, and it has nothing to do with the talent that's there. It has to do with shareholders. It has to do because remember, guys, when it comes to shareholders, when it comes to people that are investing in these companies, typically it's old money, and old money is judgmental money. We're not going to have this when we're older, But when you look at the guys that are really the money guys, the 1%ers, even the 10 percenters, typically they like to keep their money within the same thing. I know people aren't going to like this, but it's typically old wasps and stuff like that. And I'm going to get a lot of shots fired at me for that one. But I don't think WWE and even the media in general. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is a certain glass ceiling because it's been that way forever. I mean, hell, we finally just got a woman late night talk show host. And Samantha Lee, and her show's only once a week. She's she's awesome. And so when you look at any corporation where it's CEOs, it's typically white males. Women still have not really taken on that CEO. And I'm not saying the women aren't qualified, and I'm not saying that minorities aren't qualified. There is absolutely, and there's a stigma. There's a stigma, and there's a stigma that needs to be broken down, but. Again, once old money is out of the picture, and I think our generation really kicks in, I think it's going to be a different story.
Yeah. It's just really sad that people that are outside of wrestling have such a big bunch of trying to force something to fit their own agenda, and it just really sucks. I mean, it's getting really tired and played out at this point. But anyway, go ahead, Adam.
Just to add on to that, and then we'll move on. I think the biggest thing is because WWE is a corporation and all the other wrestling companies are more privatized. It's a little bit tougher because when you're a corporation, you have to have that mission statement. You have to have that corporate statement, and it's always blanketed with a bunch of bullshit that we do this. Guys, WWE, at the end of the day, they don't care about all these charities that they're doing. They care about the money they're bringing in for themselves while they're doing this and the look that it's making them. It's all about building your product, building your brand, building your... At the end of the day, I promise you, Vince probably doesn't want to be doing all this stuff, but he knows that in today's world, he has to, you know. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not defending people. It just, unfortunately, this is this disgusting, money-driven, greed, American way that that everybody says, oh, free market, blah, blah, blah. There is no free market, man. It's everyone's bought, paid for. It's all bullshit. Just quit, stop. But yeah, Josh, I think times are changing now. I do. I think that with the women's revolution that we just saw, and I refuse to say Divas Revolution, but the women's revolution that we just
don't have to do it anymore.
Exactly. You know, the women's revolution that we just saw that is branching out more. I do think we're seeing a diversity in WWE, more diversity than we've ever seen in WWE. I think going forward, it'll be different. I honestly do.
All right, let's go back a little bit to Raw. I just wanted to point out some stuff that I enjoyed on the show. I love when Chris Jericho comes out, and I know he says this line a lot, but when he says, "Do you understand what I'm saying to you right now?" I just think that's the biggest piece of heel gold I ever heard in my life. I love when he says that all the time, and he does it slowly to piss the fans off. I see in his face, he's like, "I'm gonna go as slow as in depth as I possibly can." It kills me every time.
The best part of it too is you can use that in any form of life. Like I use it in parenting, you know, like if I have to scold my daughter, like, you know, or you talk to her about something, you say it at the end. Do you understand what I'm saying to you right now? Dude, it works so gold. But it also shows Jericho kind of talking down to everybody, you know, like he is the father figure, the vet, the general that he is. I love it, dude.
And boy, you know what? Going with Raw, you know, sometimes during these builds to pay-per-views, you're going to have that one Raw that's not bad, but it's like you have those shows in between before the go-home show. You set the table and everything. And you know what? For the last 3 weeks, they've been setting the table for Payback. I'll go through the match card in a couple of minutes, but if you look where we started for the Raw after WrestleMania to where we are now, each Raw has had something to do with Payback and also at the same time made matches for Payback instead of, oh, we're still going to talk about WrestleMania like they usually do. Oh, we're going to keep harping on Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger. We're going to keep going on with Randy Orton and Batista, Daniel Bryan, all that. So like I think it's cool that over the last couple of weeks Raw has been moving on towards the next pay-per-view. Hey, it's the new season, right? It's the new year for WWE. We got to move on.
Josh, let me ask you an interesting question too. And it's just because, real quick, I'm going to give a shout out to Nick Buzz. Yes, brother. I absolutely, just going back to our pay-per-view debate, the UK, England, they definitely need a pay-per-view. They absolutely
you're damn right.
need a pay-per-view. Shout out to Nick Buzz. Listen, they need a pay-per-view like so bad. Or no, I'm sorry, I ain't Nick Buzz. That's at Nick_BD. I'm sorry, brother. But Nick, yes, good call. The UK does need one. And no, you're not biased. You're just telling the truth. But I think with let me ask you about this, Josh. Do you think that right now fans, because it seems like everybody's praising Raw because Raw's been solid, but I enjoyed Raw before Mania. Are people just jumping on the Raw is good bandwagon because they think Shane McMahon is running the show?
Honestly, I don't know at this point, to be honest with you. I don't know what is pleasing people or getting people pissed off. I mean, we go through one period where, oh my God, we're pushing all the NXT talents. I think I even heard it on your show yesterday, NXT TakeOver Payback. I heard that on the show. And it's like, we go through that one period, and then we go to the fall, and it's like, oh God, this is wrestling Armageddon. This is terrible. This is god awful. It's so repetitive and old at this point. I can't even figure out what is actually going on right now. Like, for example, like I told you earlier, I look at the bigger picture. I know that Raw is not going to be a hit every single week. So, okay, Raw may suck one week, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy WWE when you have a good SmackDown the next day or two or whatever they air it. So you gotta find, if you're gonna be that hardcore fan and you really feel that you're entitled and you feel that you can do a better job, take the time to do the research and form your own opinion. Do not take the time to go on websites and go on what people say on a podcast. Dude, anybody that's listening, you can agree or disagree with what me and Adam say. Me and Adam are never going to tell you how to feel or what your opinion should be on wrestling.
No,
it's that simple.
Yeah, because it's so subjective. Because we're talking about
the whole Roman Reigns thing is subjective. Hey, people like him, people don't. That's the part of the game. It's entertainment. It's subjective. Do I think Roman Reigns is going to be the champion to next year's WrestleMania? I don't think so, but we'll see what happens.
I would keep the title, and I know I'm going to get a lot of heat, but I would. I think that there's something. It's organically working. Like, we always want it to organically work if it's the crowd is so behind it, like a Daniel Bryan. But I feel like there's something that's organically working with Roman Reigns right now. And I know it's booze and people say that's not good, but Josh, you hit it on the head. He's the most talked about guy. And at the end of the day, it's about creating buzz. And just like nobody liked, and again, I know I tie this in a lot, but it seems like nobody liked the finale of The Walking Dead. But you're going to be talking about it all summer long until that next show comes out. And I thought it was brilliant. So again, it's one of those where sometimes when you really irritate people and you keep getting them to that boiling point, finally, once you give them what they want, it seems like Shane McMahon, if this, however they're, saying that what they're doing with them.
Yeah.
I think that, and now we still have people complaining, well, Shane, why is he around? He lost. The match was all for naught. Like, just take it. Like,
like, for example, look at, I know you're a big fan of Gotham, right? You love Gotham, right?
Yes.
You were talking about the teaser at the end of Walking Dead with the Negan, and who did Negan kill? I want to ask you this question: do you think you're gonna have a cliffhanger with Joker the same way you had it with the Walking Dead, and then fans of Gotham are gonna be pissed off in the same way?
Yeah. I think the way that they're going. Oh, I guess spoiler alert, guys. If you're a Gotham fan, just mute it until I go like this. But long story, and guys, listen. Full disclosure: this is a very good example. Everyone knows I'm a huge Joker fan. Everyone knows that Joker is my guy over Batman. Joker has not been on Gotham yet-ish. I think we kind of know what, But when they killed the proto-Joker, Jerome, off, if I was a wrestling fan, I would have been like, fuck it, I quit watching this. This sucks. How could they have him on for 4 episodes and get rid of him? He's the biggest character in the Batman universe. This is bullshit. No, there's so much good going on that show. It doesn't have to be. Yeah. And, Josh, we talked about this yesterday, talking about the short-sightedness about getting just so single focused on one thing. Look at where we're at with Roman Reigns and AJ Styles right now. How did AJ Styles debut?
At the Royal Rumble. Against
who?
Roman Reigns.
At number 3.
Yeah.
Long-term storytelling, man. Long-term storytelling. This is beautiful. Yeah. And granted, it could have been happenstance because AJ's popularity went through the roof. But at the same time, they positioned it that way so that if AJ's popularity went through the roof, guys, they've been doing this with so many talents. All the feuds, we talked about this. Every feud at Payback has significant history behind it.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this in the Facebook Messenger. I told you about how Jericho and Ambrose went back to Night of Champions of last year. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I mean, this thing's been going on for over a decade at this point. And you know what? It's cool. Like, and I honestly feel like going back to Raw, like, I really like that they do tie in stuff from SmackDown and they go to Raw, and that SmackDown is coming its own single alone show now. Like, you're not gonna you may have repeat like different pairings of matches, but as far as the storyline context, SmackDown stands alone now. And like, I like where they're going with the tag team tournament. I think it's a cool idea that it is Enzo and Cass versus the Vaughn Villains. I think that's a great thing. Charlotte and Natalya is gonna be really cool thing. And I know I'm from the city. I'm just really excited with the fact that Bret Hart's going to be in Natalya's corner, and this is going to be the first time Bret Hart's been at the Rosemont Horizon since the Montreal Screw job. So I'm really, really excited for that.
Right, because he skipped WrestleMania 22, he wouldn't go.
Yeah, how frequent Bret Hart felt uncomfortable participating in this evening's event.
I was like, you got to be kidding me! Like, they did not pull him out of the bus like that.
I know last week you guys were talking about WrestleMania stories. I got one for you, and this one is it still cracks me up today. I said this when we did a Pod Slam event. For those who don't know, Pod Slam is a podcast event in Chicago where we raise money for Connor's cure. Lucky our show was invited to be part of it last year, so we got to go up there and talk about stories and what the show's about and all that good stuff. There's one story I remember. I was about to be 12. This is when WrestleMania 22. So it's the weekend. I'm going to the Hall of Fame ceremony at the Rosemont Theater with my uncle and my dad. I go out of the parking lot. I see two pregnant women fighting in the parking lot for like 10 minutes. Just back and forth, bam, bam, bam. And I even saw one girl do a heart punch right to the pregnant belly. And guess what happens? Ron Simmons comes out of the backstage area, parking lot or whatever, to go grab something. He sees the fight, and everybody's telling Ron, say, damn, damn, damn. And then he does it like super loud. Damn.
You know what? Real quick, since it is 420 day and we're talking about Ron Simmons, I got a really funny Ron Simmons story. So, all right, when Jericho made his second coming return back in 07, he debuted, I think it was in Orlando or Tampa whenever he came back, but his second show was in Charlotte. I was living in Charlotte at the time. Yeah. So, of course, I mean, I thought about driving down to Florida to see Jericho come back, but it was like, okay, we'll wait. And, that's when he did his little bit with Santino and all that stuff. The reason why I'm saying this is because typically when you go, it was the first time I was at Bobcats Arena, if that's what they're still calling it, or whatever it's called now. But yeah, it was me, two of my buddies. I'm going to leave names out to not incriminate anybody, but maybe because I'm not a drinker, we wanted to indulge in some green therapy that day. So we happened to walk in, and as soon as we turned the corner, I mean, this is like 9 years ago now. We turned the corner, and Ron Simmons is walking around the arena, and we like all froze, and we're like, And it's like, and he could hear us say like, oh, should we say something to him? And he kind of stopped for a second and looked back. So now here I am like frozen. I just was like, and the Steelers were playing the Dolphins, I think, on Monday Night Football that night. It was the worst Monday Night Football game ever. I think it was 3-0 was the final. It was the mud game, if anybody remembers. But we were like, hey, Ron, who do you think's going to win, the Steelers or Dolphins? He kind of looked back at us, and I think he just said, like, Steelers or something like that. Or so he had his damn T-shirt on, though. But it was one of those uncomfortable moments that only, like, stoners would get put into at a Raw event. So, I don't know. It's 420 day. There you go, guys. Open door. Enjoy.
Yeah. Here's another one from WrestleMania 31 weekend. How ironic. It's another Hall of Fame story. So there's like this walkway from the hotel to the whatever plaza they're at in San Jose. And so some of the wrestlers would walk through this one area of the hotel to the other one. And you have fans out there, oh, can I have an autograph? Have an autograph, right? And this is like late at night. So there's this bum that comes out, right? And I kind of feel uncomfortable and sad for calling him a bum, but it is what it is. And he goes up to Rikishi, right? Right after he gets his Hall of Fame speech, right? Rikishi's out there. We're all standing here like, oh, God, what's going to happen right now? And then the bum's like, hey, man, can I have $20,000? Yo, G, I know you got $20,000. Rikishi just walked away. And then Ryback came out right after that. And he came up, hey, big guy, you got $50,000? Ryback puts the bum across the wall at the hotel. He's like, leave me the fuck alone.
That's probably one of the few times I'd ever applaud Ryback. You know what, Josh? Let me ask you a question though. Getting back to like SmackDown and Raw, because SmackDown I think is and I want to absolutely applaud you for constantly talking about how SmackDown is so imperative to the product right now. And you've been doing this for a very long time, and a lot of people are complaining about the women's division. There's no women's revolution, and even like the tag team division. It's because you're watching SmackDown. There's a lot of storyline progression, especially with the mid card, with the women, that happens on SmackDown. So when you say, well, it doesn't make sense that Becky and Emma are going to feud, watch SmackDown. It makes a lot more sense. You know what I mean? Watch these other shows. And that's why if you only watch Raw, I feel like, and I'm not saying I watch SmackDown every week, guys. I mean, I have a kid. I have I have a million things going on in my life. But when I do watch SmackDown, I don't sit there and say, well, I don't know what's going on. This doesn't make sense, because I know I missed a show. You know, if you miss a show, you're going to kind of be a little bit in the dark with certain things. You know, I mean, do you get that feeling, Josh, that people have resigned that SmackDown is the B show? Or because for a lot of years there was nothing going on, but it was a Raw recap, you know. And now that it's not a Raw recap anymore, it really is its standalone, breathable product that I feel like is taking on a super life of its own. It's become just as important as Raw.
Yeah, and I feel like Tides fans, like, they claim that they can do WWE better than WWE does it, but they really don't take the time to actually do the research behind it. Like, one of the big things that have been happening on SmackDown that I enjoyed over the last 3 to 4 months has actually been Miz TV. Miz TVs have been more gold on SmackDown recently, and I thought the one they had on Raw this past Monday night was really good with Cesaro. And Miz has really come to his own as a performer again on SmackDown with great matches against Ziggler, AJ Styles, Jericho. The list goes on and on and on. And SmackDown's one of those shows where you get to see those guys you like. Hey, Sami Zayn has already main evented like 2 or 3 SmackDown's races. He came up to the main roster. And, you know, yeah, you still have some of those old Teddy Long Day SmackDown days where you have a tag team match at the main event. But you know what? I enjoy SmackDown, and really great thing about SmackDown with Mauro Ranallo is that he reels you into the show, and he tells you why these storylines are happening and what are the good attributes to these superstars and women on the roster. And you know what? My issue with Raw, I always said it, it's not the length of the show, it's the commentators. Your narrators of what your product is dictates how good or bad your product is. When you have your commentators bringing a dry personality or sense of humor to the show, that's not going to relate back to the fans, no matter how loud the crowd is in the building. There's only so much of a story a wrestler can tell in the ring, especially on a television show. You need those commentators to reel you in. And you know, the great thing about JR, you know, there's so many freaking rematches on the Attitude Era. It's ridiculous. I love how people complain, oh, God, we see the same matches all the time. I've been watching a lot of these Raws at the Attitude Era, like if it was right now, just to catch up, because obviously I was like 5 when the Attitude Era was over. And, you know, you had the same matches all the time. You had 50-50 booking in the Attitude Era. But JR got you interested. He protected the talents. And so is Mauro Ranallo. So, you know what? You want to understand why a lot of these stories, they're not the world title or whatever, they don't seem important to you because you're not taking the time to understand why these storylines are happening. You got to do your work, and I understand people don't have the time to sit down and watch it live as it's going on. Record the shit. You can skim through it for like an hour and 10 minutes just out of the weekend. You can watch it like that. You could do what you want to actually know what's going on with WWE, but you choose to go off what other people say. And that's my issue.
Exactly. And you know what, Josh, that the biggest point right there is, and like you hit it earlier, I'm a big Gotham fan, and granted it's a quick hour that I can get through in like 40 minutes. I always watch Gotham before I watch Raw. And it's because Raw is a longer show. I like to end my night with Raw, but I DVR Raw so that I can fast forward through commercials, filler, and I get through it quicker. I get through Raw in about 2 hours. It's not this marathon show. And recently I have not been skipping through as many matches. I haven't been skipping, through as many segments.
Yeah.
But I do the same with SmackDown. Granted, yes, I still don't get to it every week, but guys, there's really no excuse. My big thing is it's okay to miss shows. I'm not saying there's no excuse.
You don't have to watch it live.
Listen, it's absolutely okay to miss shows, but don't then, if something happens on Raw, act like this is so stupid. What are they doing booking wise when you missed the show? That's so if you would have seen the Thursday show, you'd understand what is going on Monday. Yeah,
exactly. And Justin, our good buddy Justin Hill, he tweeted us asking our thoughts of a potential women's Money in the Bank ladder match.
How I say very, very good. Yes. I dream of it. I dream of it. It would be
Oh
awesome.
yes, Mr. Daley. Yeah.
That it would be so awesome. And I think they have the women. They finally have the women to do it because Josh, I think we've wanted this for a while.
Yeah.
But did they really have the women to do it? And this is no disrespect to anyone through the Divas era, but did we want to see AJ Lee, Nikki Bella, Brie Bella, Maurice, Layla in a ladder match? No, we didn't. No, did we want to see them? Yes. Did we want to see them in a ladder match? No. I don't know, Josh. What do you think? Is it a good idea or a bad idea?
It's an interesting idea. I'll say that. What's really messed up is the fact that I had to cover a knockouts ladder match with. I'll go to TNA in a couple of minutes, but if TNA can do a ladders match with women in it, then WWE can do it. Like, for example, you don't even have to make it like 7 or 8 people like the men do. Have 6. Look at you have Becky Lynch, you got Charlotte, you got Emma, you got Sasha Banks, you got Naomi. You could probably. I gotta tell you, Bailey.
Listen, I know nobody likes the Ava Marie angle, but just imagine the heat that Ava Marie would have with the briefcase, and everyone going, "Oh God, I'd hate it." That's why it would be so beautifully amazing.
It would work with her character, though.
What's that?
It would work with her character, though.
And think about this: the women's title now is what color? White and what?
Red.
Oh, all red everything? Would the briefcase be red? Oh, just tossing that out there, guys.
And then she cashes in Brooklyn at SummerSlam.
Please book that WWE. I can't believe I'm saying this, but please book Ava Marie to win. Like, if you ever have a Money in the Bank, please give that woman the Money in the Bank briefcase because people would be losing their minds. Oh man,
that's oh God. That just came off the top of my head. Cashing in Brooklyn. Oh God,
it would be perfect.
Going back to Payback, man. This is maybe Chicago's WrestleMania this year. I already see a lot of people say that Payback's going to be a better show than WrestleMania this year. It should be interesting. I mean, we got a lot of good matches, and Chicago's been saddled with a lot of crappy shows, to be honest with you, the last couple of times, from Raws to pay-per-views. I wasn't crazy about the Extreme Rules pay-per-view that was here last year. You have Reigns and Styles. We got Jericho and Ambrose. We got Owens and Zayn. You got the Enzo and Cass versus Von Villains. You got Natalya versus Charlotte. You got Miz Cesaro. Like, there's a lot to do. And just for that alone, I mean, that this pay-per-view is stacked, man. I'm really, really looking forward to going to the show on next Sunday, a week before my birthday. So, this is kind of like my birthday gift. So I can't wait for next Sunday.
Little birthday gift, don't you? You always kind of get that little pay-per-view birthday gift.
Yes. Oh man, I don't know about you, Adam, but like I don't know what else you add to the show. I mean, you could have the Dudleys versus New Day if they run into each other for Raw next week. If the New Day needs an opponent or something. Who knows? Maybe the New Day takes on the League of Nations again. I don't know.
You know what? I don't know. Maybe they give New Day the pay-per-view off, but I think the Dudleys might cost Enzo and Big Cass that match. So I think the Dudleys we are going to see.
It's really weird, Adam. Payback's now the slot Backlash was in for WrestleMania, but there's no WrestleMania rematches on this show. Not one. Not one booked right now.
Not even. But again, that's one of those where, every year we complain that it's just rehashed rematches from WrestleMania, and we know it's a bridge pay-per-view. This doesn't feel like a bridge pay-per-view at all. I mean, this really feels like, we always say WrestleMania kind of resets our wrestling year. This seems like it really is keeping that momentum, that fresh momentum going. And I really do think, Josh, like we keep saying, it's just because people are starting to pay attention to it now. I think the changes have been there. It's just we were so caught up on the road to WrestleMania. And like you said, Roman Reigns, that we there's that line from Ferris Bueller, like, if you don't stop and take a look around every once in a while, you might miss something. And you know, everybody's so busy complaining about Roman Reigns. You're missing a lot. You really are. We're missing a lot.
You got the Bullet Club. Who knows what they're gonna do? You know, we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But you got them. They show up. Becky versus Emma. Baron Corbin versus Dolph Ziggler. I could see that happening.
Would you be okay with a promo segment during this? Like, even if it's, I don't know what show you could do, because Miz will have a match, Jericho will have a match, Ambrose will have a match, but I'm really okay with some sort of, you know, maybe Triple H and Stephanie come back, Payback.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all, actually. I like that one a lot. If anything, if there's a talking segments, will be with the Authority. You know, it's really funny. I was watching the Michael Cole interview with Miz and Maurice. I'll tell you about this before we went on air. They're gold, man. I mean, from Maurice talking about domestic water and blue M&Ms and her making a rider take his suit off, and then and then they walk over it.
Let me ask you a question, Josh. I feel a certain way, but do you feel like they're finally? And I don't know if this has anything to do with who is in creative or who is in pulling the strings or who whatever. But do you feel like they're finally starting to evaluate talent, seeing the strengths, and really just focusing on capitalizing on the strengths versus trying to make certain talent into something that they're not? You know, like, and my example is Maurice. Let's face it, guys. And Maurice, even though she's the third longest reigning Divas champion of all time, plug, wink, you know, we won't ever remember her as being a wrestler, you know. Yeah. But she brought heat like nobody, even Maurice style heat, you know. So her role with Miz is absolutely phenomenal, and I think they're really tapping into everybody. And I don't know if it's something that's going on in the writers' room. I don't know if it just seems like they're bringing the best out of everybody, and they know what people's strengths are. And rather than trying to kind of mold them into something they're not, they're just rolling with what works.
Yeah, and you know, like Miz, every time he goes like, when my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut. It's hilarious. And then Cesaro this past Monday is like, when my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut too. I thought that was really cool.
And how great, and this shows how great is people want to say Miz has fallen so far. But if you look at a guy like Miz, if you look at a guy like Jericho, when they're out there, we play right into their hands. When Miz's hand goes up, everybody's mouth does go shut. When Chris Jericho says everybody wants to come out and chant AJ Styles, everybody starts chanting AJ Styles. We play right into their hands, guys.
Not only that, but the great thing about the Miz, he brought out personality out of AJ Styles when he first came to WWE, and he's doing it now with Cesaro. And he did it with Daniel Bryan when they had their feud. So if you really think about it, Miz is the perfect guy for those guys that came from the independents to get their charisma, if you will, up to the next level.
I still think Miz is one of the most underappreciated talents they have. And I don't mean in a way that he needs to be pushed for the World Heavyweight Championship, because, guys, not everybody needs that or wants that. I think that's something that we forget. The biggest misnomer is, look how far Miz has fallen. I completely disagree. I think Miz has been more entertaining over the past year than when he was World Heavyweight, or when he was WWE Champion.
Yeah.
I think that we get so caught up on a title that we don't see. Miz right now did more for Cesaro than Cesaro did for Cesaro, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, I could agree more, man. Like Cesaro, I love what he's doing with the kind of the James Bond thing where he's ripping the whole thing out, and it's funny. He's getting the personality out, and that. Well, everybody say, "Oh, Cesaro doesn't go for the brass ring. He doesn't go to bring the people in." Hey, you got a Cesaro section T-shirt. That's WWE embracing Cesaro's fan base, because that was the fan thing where they bring Cesaro section signs, and now they're making money out of it, out of a T-shirt now.
And let's face it, Josh, I don't know of too many people. Obviously, I mean, The Rock did it at WrestleMania too, but I wouldn't invest in a tearaway suit if I wasn't reaching for that brass ring. I mean, unless he's breaking a suit every week. If that's the case, he's investing in the brass ring. He's not reaching for it.
Yeah. You know what? Before we move on here, one thing from Raw which I found pretty interesting. Like, so you had Apollo Crews in the backstage area, and he's been fighting all the social outcast members since he came up to Raw and SmackDown. And Apollo Crews is like, okay, if I win, you guys will leave me alone forever. See, something like that, that's filler. I like, because he's acknowledging the fact that he's been fighting these guys all the time since he came out to the main roster, and they're giving you a reason why to care about that match.
Yeah. And again, I mean, yeah, a lot of people are going to look at it as filler, but you have to start somewhere. It's one of those where you can't immediately put Apollo Crews in feuds with like super, super established stars. You have to work your way up that ladder. And just the fact that Crews is already on Raw, I think is a testament to what they have planned for him in the future.
This year is going to be so stacked with different rivalries and matches, especially with the guys that are coming back, especially when Neville comes back, when Orton and Cena and Rollins come back. We think we're loving what we're seeing right now. Just wait till the summertime, and then maybe we'll actually have a fall season that doesn't go down the shits.
It is. I think it's going to be a really, really good year for WWE. And I've been saying that for a long time. I think that, I saw the changes happening. Again, change doesn't happen overnight, guys. You're not going to wake up one day and the whole world's different. It's a slow progression. It's like that with any form of entertainment. And again, this is entertainment, guys. It's entertainment first. That's why I always compare it to other shows. It's different, yes, because it's living, it's breathing, it's constantly functioning. And it's constantly evolving on a day-to-day basis versus shows that are written, weeks ahead of time. But at the same time, there's still characters, there's still stories first. And unfortunately, the wrestling typically comes second because it is entertainment now and not wrestling,
Yeah, and I feel like coming up on next Sunday, we're really going to just have a time to sit back. We know what the stories are behind this, and we're just going to have the great opportunity to sit back and enjoy a good show with a great crowd behind it. We're not going into the show asking a million questions, and I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to go that route because they just choose to be miserable. Hey, you have a right to critique what you want. I just choose the perspective of, if something bothers me, I'll toss it aside because it doesn't really matter to me. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I'm right. You know what I mean? Just because I disagree with something doesn't mean what's going on is wrong. So it's all subjective. And I feel like with Chicago shows, even Roman Reigns and AJ Styles, I think JBL has finally said something that's competent and worthy on Raw this past Monday. He said there's a big fight field, and there is a big fight field to this match. And I want to ask you this. We've talked about it a couple times already since these guys have came up. It's been a discussion on your show with Anderson and Gallows. I said this to you, and I think people will be pissed about this. But if you want heat, like real heat, and Roman Reigns to embrace the heat, you have Anderson and Gallows team up with Roman Reigns, and Anderson and Gallows turn on AJ Styles. You want real heat, that's why they're there. Nobody wants to see Anderson and Gallows as good guys. I'm sorry, nobody wants to see them as good guys.
I agree. And I think, listen, Gallows and Anderson both have too mean of a look. I was upset when they let go of Gallows before. I'm so happy he's back. And he looks trimmer but bigger. He looks like guys. Gallows looks like a monster now, and I don't want them as a face style character. Josh, I think the best route to take with them guys is have them turn on AJ but not align themselves with Roman Reigns, because that way you protect Roman Reigns as whatever they want him to be. That pretty much just the corporate face. He's not a baby face. He's not a heel. He's the corporate guy. He's the guy. That his promos say it simple. He's the guy. He's the corporate guy. He's the guy that WWE wants to market around. Whether we like it or not, that's fine. But Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, or as AJ slipped up the other night and said, Doc Gallows, I think that you have to keep them heel. You have to keep them mega heel. This is a mega heel tag team in the making. This is, I think, what they wanted to do, something like with the Ascension and some of these other tag teams that just kind of fell on their face. Yeah. I think putting him with AJ would be a huge mistake, only because AJ is so popular right now. Not only he does not need to be a part of a faction, even as popular as the faction could be. I don't know, Josh. I think that they just stay a wild card for a little while and kind of stay themselves, not align themselves with anybody. I don't know. Do you think it would be better for them to stay alone or align themselves with a Roman Reigns or an AJ Styles?
I just think it'd be too easy to go with AJ Styles. That's my thing. I just think that's the predictable thing. Like, okay, I get it. It's the Bullet Club. I've watched New Japan pay-per-views. I know what the Bullet Club is. And you know what? Just because it worked in New Japan doesn't mean it's going to work in WWE. I'm sorry. It's the truth. I mean, even for it's not that I don't want to see the Bullet Club together. I think it'd be cool. I mean, but look at the NWO didn't work in WWE.
Yes,
it didn't work in WWE. I'm sorry.
It's a different time.
Yeah, and I feel like Anderson and Gallows are better off being heels. And you know what's really odd about this whole Roman Reigns thing? Since we're all on this whole thing about, oh, he's got to look strong. Oh, WWE does everything to make Roman look strong. The guy gets his ass kicked every week on television. He's got his ass whipped by the League of Injuries. He's got his ass kicked by Triple H. And now he's getting his ass kicked by Anderson and Gallows. So how's the guy made to look strong?
He's put more people over for, Jericho gets the rep of being like the guy that puts people over. I feel like Reigns has been putting more people over than anybody right now, and he's the damn champion, man. But again, that shows the impact that Roman Reigns has. And Josh, like you said, that's why he's so important. If Anderson and Gallows attack the Usos, boom, okay, it's the first time. We're going to pop for it.
Yeah.
But now they go after Roman Reigns. The hardcore fans don't like him, but he's the champion. They're going after the top dog. It's impactful, guys. It makes a statement. And I think, again, that's what Roman Reigns is doing. He's putting his personal agenda on the back burner for the company. You can't ask for anything more. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what we always complained about John Cena never putting anybody over, right? Claiming to never put anybody over. Now Roman Reigns is constantly helping to elevate superstars, but we're still knocking this man down. And again, I
agree. I'm not saying Roman Reigns is my favorite guy in the roster. Like I said, yeah. I enjoy what he does in the ring. That's his first. I'll go with that. But it's something I've noticed as a wrestling fan that you're going off assumptions of what the media members want you to believe of what's right and wrong with what's going on in today's wrestling. And, Roman Reigns is the one that took the pin from Seth Rollins at WrestleMania when he was supposed to beat Brock Lesnar. He was supposed to be the one to beat the one in 21-1. He took the clean-ass pin off a curb stop off of Seth Rollins. And he had Reigns take the clean win off of Sheamus when he cashed in the Money in the Bank. He even lost the title in the Rumble match. It wasn't like 30 people eliminated him. It was Triple H. Yeah, so Roman Reigns, the whole thing, that's the one thing I disagree with the whole CM Punk podcast is that, everything WWE does is to make Roman Reigns look strong. Because that's not the case. The guy's been getting his ass kicked as much as Daniel Bryan was getting his ass kicked before he got the title.
Yeah. And I look, at one point, it was absolutely they were trying to make it, but there was like a brief moment in time, and then they realized that the fans kind of went south on it. It's for me too. I feel like I'm glad Roman's coming out from the top of the ramp now. I'm glad he's not coming through the thing, but again, guys, let's face facts here. We're two guys that aren't Reigns fans. I appreciate what he does in the ring. I appreciate what every man and woman that steps in that ring does. I think he's entertaining. I don't skip his matches. I skip Baron Corbin's matches. I skip Ryback's matches. I do not skip Roman Reigns' matches. And I'm not a Roman Reigns guy. I'm not gonna buy a vest and wear it around. I'm not gonna like the gloves. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna get any of that. But it's just unfortunate that we get. Do you feel, Josh, that it's just because people don't listen? As humans, we're meant to evolve and we're meant to change our opinions and life is about being proven wrong. Ultimately, that's the most beautiful thing in life is being proven wrong. And Roman Reigns has proven me wrong. Like 2 years ago, no, I did not think he was ready. He's a completely different guy right now. Yeah. So my mind is completely changed. That doesn't make me a hypocrite or a flip-flopper. It means that he's evolved, I've evolved, and we can. But people, I think, are so dead set in whatever their initial reaction is about somebody, they have to keep that and they have to stay with that the whole way out, because then that's my hill to die on and I'm going to stay with it. It's not the case, guys. It's like I think that's the only reason why people are still with this anti-Roman Reigns thing. I think it's because it was the trendy thing to do, and people just won't drop it now. I think that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, to put an end to it. I mean, you got two guys here, like I said, not the biggest Reigns guy in the world. I respect what he does in the ring, and I think he's a good human being, especially with the interviews I've seen him done. And this whole thing with Reigns, I think at the end they boils down to this: we feed in like sheep to what other people say, like blind sheep. It's just that simple. I can't let Roman Reigns dictate how I feel about the product. Okay, what he does may not be great, but it doesn't mean I can't enjoy what everything else is going on in the show. Like you said earlier, we got so many cool feuds on the side. Like I remember you told me this. You're not a fan of Hogan. But I'm sure you loved everything that was going on in the 80s because all the other stuff that was going on around it, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's what I've always, I always talk about, and it's funny being like, I guess the older guy that looks like he's still like 20, but but growing up, like when I really first started getting in around like 83, 84, 85, I was never a Hogan fan, but I loved Bobby Heenan, so Bobby Heenan and the Heenan family always kind of went against Hogan. But for me, it was always the undercard. And a little kid, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, going into the 90s and whatever, I never would sit there and complain. And I would never sit there and be like, oh, this is the worst thing. I mean, I didn't like Hogan. I didn't like his character. He couldn't wrestle, guys. Come on. Hulk Hogan could not wrestle his way out of a paper bag. Here it is. Back scratch, leg drop, back scratch, big group.
Hey, this is not a 420 statement. Virgil is a better wrestler than Hulk Hogan.
Oh no. Man. Well, took a better career path too, even if he is lonely Virgil. But I would say, it's one of those. There was so much gold underneath, and right now I feel like we're in the same boat. But Reigns is a hell of a lot better than Hogan was at that time. Hogan would just had that look. He had that super over the top personality, that larger than life figure that crossed over into movies. That crossed over. It was just a peak for wrestling, and that's it. And he was the guy that they ran behind. But when you look at what was going on underneath, you had Savage, you had Perfect, you had Bret Hart, you had you had the Hart Foundation, you had the Rockers who eventually broke up, you had Demolition in the tag team division. The women's division was decent. I mean, you had so many good things that were going on. And as a kid, did you notice, Josh, like when we're little, we don't question when they cross-pollinate over into entertainment, or if they bring in musicians or they bring in actors. We never question it when we're little. Yeah. It's only when we're older do we go, this is stupid. This doesn't make any sense. But when we're little kids, we're like, oh, it makes sense because now Cyndi Lauper's is doing something with Captain Lou Albano, and now Captain Lou Albano and Roddy Piper are on MTV, and and all of a sudden everything's getting crossed. It makes sense, guys. It really does.
Well, I think it's really interesting because we got two guys who were born in different generations of wrestling. And I think that's something you guys will like with the aspects when we do these videos. Like for me, I never complained about it because I knew that's what it was when I was growing up as a WWE fan. I was still in my early years of high school when they were doing the Raw GM every single week. It was 2008. They had a general manager every single week, a celebrity GM. And I was in high school. I think I was like 14 years old, and they were doing that all the time, man. And I wasn't mad about it. It was always there. You had Janet Jameson during the Attitude Era. I remember that she did the thing with Val Venus. Ice-T came out with The Godfather at WrestleMania 2000. How many times we see the damn Limp Bizkit concert? So,
Motorhead,
I love Motorhead. King of Kings is one of my favorite wrestling theme songs. Mm-hmm. Triple H, we miss you, brother.
Yeah,
come back on TV soon.
They need to get Lemmy and Motorhead in the WWE Hall of Fame. They got to get them in the Hall of Fame. So class of 2017, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's in Orlando. Triple H's home, basically his new home. That makes sense. you know, one last thing about this race thing, I really want to move on because, I this is proven it earlier. The guy is the most talked about thing on every show. It spends the most time on it. You don't have to like Roman Reigns. It's cool. Like I said, I don't lose sleep over the guy. If you don't like the guy, cool. But don't let one wrestler or what one thing dictate how you feel about wrestling. There's a lot of cool stuff that's going on right now. I think that's a good message for today. Don't let one wrestler dictate how you feel on the whole product.
And Josh, here's an interesting thing. Let me just toss at you. Yes, Roman Reigns is the champion right now, but when's the last time he ended Raw?
Raw before WrestleMania.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just because he has the title doesn't mean. Again, guys, remember the title's a prop. I understand, but it's. And Josh, before we move on, I think this is where we also need to quit listening to guys that wrestled 20 years ago. Not saying there's not a lot to learn from them, please, guys. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that as society changes, entertainment changes. And I think we could all agree that WWE today is not what WWF was 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. That being said, HBK has done an interview lately saying that, you don't know if you'd see him in today's WWE. It's just too different. It's just, and Austin understand, he doesn't really get what they're doing to Reigns. And I absolutely take everything that they say and listen to it and digest it because listen, these guys know they've forgotten more about the industry than I will ever know.
Yeah.
But I do think there is some subjectivity to it because if you were a wrestler 20 years ago, society was different. So the temperature of a room is different. There's different buttons you can push. There's certain things you can get away with. There's certain, guys like, and I always get back to Batista. When Batista said, this just isn't for me anymore because of how it is. I think there's truth to that. I miss Big Dave. But when you really have to keep Big Dave, when you have to put Big Dave in a cage, you can't cage Big Dave up. You got to let Big Dave kind of be Big Dave. And when you micromanage talent too much, I think that certain guys just aren't going to, but that's how today's WWE is. So learn to love it.
Yeah, I just feel like sometimes people are too stuck in a bubble that it has to be this way for this certain perspective. I love Stone Cold. He's not my favorite wrestler of all time. I respect what he does. I like his podcasts. But I just feel like you need to move on. I understand there's things when it comes to fundamentals and all that. I agree with that. Selling and all that others. That's perfectly fine, but you really need to evolve with the times. Gary Hart's not here anymore. These old Booker philosophy, Bill Watts, nobody hears from him from the last 10 years. It's time to move on. You got to move on with wrestling as time goes on.
Like I say, you'll never reinvent the wheel, and I don't think
Vince Russo says it a lot. You got to change with the tides. And I feel sometimes, unfortunately for Vince, he's kind of stuck in the old 1970s bubble at the same time. Like I love Vince. I love Vince Russo, but he is the man. But I watch his show, and he says one thing that wrestling needs to evolve in today's society. But his complaints goes back to everything guys like Jim Ross say or Stone Cold Steve Austin say. So do you really want to evolve, or do you? I don't get it. That's my issue. You need to have the conviction, have the balls to stick to your convictions. If you believe one thing, cool. And if you're not willing to evolve, okay, I understand. But don't tell me that, we need to evolve. We got to do this when you're not willing to evolve at the same time.
Right. And I think too that, I agree with Vince, and I agree with, because I do think it's one of those where you can't reinvent the wheel. It's just, again, sometimes spokes need to be removed. Sometimes maybe you have to replace a tire. But it is just changing with society. And I do think that they're finding a better groove though on how to tap into how to make the most buzz. It's all about creating buzz anymore, guys, because it used to be something would happen, somebody would branch over, and then somebody would call their wrestling friend, like I'm the wrestling friend. So as soon as somebody like Punk dropped the pipe bomb, my phone the next day got blown up like 35. Who is this CM Punk dude? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, the guy I've been dressing up for at WrestleManias for the past couple years. But it's one of those where now with what goes on the network, what goes on social media, what goes on, they're great tools, but they're poisonous tools too, because it's a great way to progress your product. It's a great way to shed light on your product. It's a great way for character development. Hell, Carmella, Oxa, and we're just completely shredding Ava Marie a couple weeks ago on Twitter. It was hysterical. And it did so much for all three characters for NXT. And it's with little things like that people miss that I think it's unbelievably fantastic. And I think that we're looking at a time where there's so many ways that you can promote that if we stay single focused on only Raw, we're missing out on a lot. We really are.
You got to stop being narrow-minded. You have to evolve. At the end, they need to get out of your bubble. And if you're not willing to change, move on with it.
Right.
It may not be for you, so don't watch it anymore. Don't put yourself to that stress if it's going to upset you that much. Entertainment should not upset you to the point where you're questioning your life or, you're that stressed out over this. I mean, like when I see people say, "Oh God, this is the worst thing of all time," oh, my head's gonna. So I really have to question your mindset and your mentality, because are you really letting something like that bother you that much? Like, it's not a big deal. And I feel like for a lot of these guys that are former wrestlers like Taz and all these other guys, look, it's not a shoot anymore. People know everything about the business anymore. It's changed. You can't do heel babyface all the time anymore. It's not the same. WWE is not a professional wrestling company, Taz. I'm sorry, they're not going to book that way.
And I love Taz's podcast.
I love Taz's show.
Yeah, I love Taz. And here's where I think it's different, and where I think that Josh, this is where you bring up a really good point, is because listen, a lot of people weren't happy with what Vince did when he went national.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be where we are today if Vince didn't change the game. So my thing is that everything has a shelf life. I don't care what it is. Everything has a shelf life. Wrestling's always going to be there whether we watch or not, guys. It's something that's always going to be there whether we're there. But eventually you do, like you said, you have to change. If Vince didn't go national, who knows what happens at a WWE or a WWF at the time. They jumped the shark. They went national first, and then boom, they became the big dogs. If somebody else does it first, we might be having a completely different car. So I think WWE, and again, nobody understood it back then, but now it makes sense, And I think changes just need to be made now that might not make sense today, but in 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever, we'll look back and say, that's why it happened.
Yeah. You know what, Adam, I forgot to bring this up, and we were talking about this before the show went on. Conor McGregor has decided to hang up the Octagon boots, and there's a lot of buzz about him possibly coming to WWE. Now, I want to pitch an idea I told Adam, and it may get you guys really excited about this. So, Josh and Adam for creative, okay? So, obviously, people are a lot expecting Conor McGregor to show up in WWE. My suggestion, if he is coming to WWE, I think he shows up at SummerSlam and gets in the face of Brock Lesnar. And at the same time, Paul Heyman turns on Brock Lesnar and advocates for Conor McGregor. Conor doesn't have to be in a position. He's a great talker. He can speak for himself. But when it comes to the wrestling sense, Paul Heyman can reel him in at a really quick standpoint, like he reeled Brock Lesnar in to get where he needs to be as a performer. So Conor McGregor with Paul Heyman versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Oh, it's money. It's money. It's money, money, money. And now, Josh, and I could be wrong because I don't dip too much into the dirt sheets and stuff like that. And I know, guys,
I'm not into it either.
Weren't there rumors that McGregor was supposed to be at WrestleMania this year, though?
No, I didn't hear anything about that.
Well, I don't mean necessarily with like a spot, so to speak, or like as an appearance, but I thought that he was going down, or it seemed like he was going down for it or whatever.
I know he went back and forth on Twitter with Sheamus one time. That's the only thing I've heard about Conor McGregor, but that was it.
For me, it seems like, and I don't dip into UFC as much as I used to, guys. Whenever St. Pierre left, I used to be a big GSP guy. And whenever St. Pierre left and Liddell left and like a lot of those cats left, I just kind of like, started tuning out a little bit. But the one thing with McGregor that I like is that he's a great talker. I mean, he has passion for what he does, but I don't know if him and Dana White have always had the best relationship. It doesn't seem like they've had the greatest relationship. And in a way, you know, with him being pulled from UFC 200, what came first? This, that, or exactly. You know, what came first? Did he get pulled first? Did he retire first? I mean, we'll never know.
Yeah.
You know, and same goes with Rousey. You know, did maybe he see something, maybe like did he not allow him? You know, and again, I don't want this to start rumors and everyone's going to be like, this little internet kid said this. But, you know, for all we know, McGregor might have wanted to just go watch WrestleMania, and Dana White told him no. Look what happened last year with Ronda. I didn't know that was going to happen, or maybe he did or didn't, or, you know, now fans do. It's one of those where we never know what goes on behind the scenes. So it's so hard to say. But I don't think Conor McGregor has been happy with UFC for a while. And I think that in a way he's been looking to get out. And I do think it's somewhat interesting that out of nowhere, he's following on Twitter now Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, Becky Lynch. Things like this aren't happenstance, guys.
I mean, you told me that WWE is following Conor McGregor too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what's interesting about that? If this is a reality, then why is Fox Sports and these other news outlets talking about potential Conor McGregor to WWE?
You know why, Josh?
It's a business. It's a business, and I think WWE is striking right at the right time, just like what Punk did when he made the decision to go to USC.
Absolutely. This is the opposite. This is the opposite way CM Punk. I mean, it's the same thing where you had a guy that was upset where the company he was in. He found a way out, and now he's going to try and go do something that he's passionate about. And I had no problem with Punk doing it, and I know people don't like it because we have to protect wrestling first. But when somebody does it, you know, when somebody comes in and from UFC and does it, we go goo goo gaga over them. I'm all about people just following their dreams, man. So if this is what McGregor wants to do, hell yeah. And I know he'll be great at WWE. Yeah, bring it on, man. Just like, listen, we want Punk, as much as you love him or hate him or whatever, we want Punk to succeed in UFC because it validates a lot of the athletes that we have in WWE, guys. Are you that short-sighted to see that? Or not to see that? Oh, like, I don't understand how people can, like, sit there. All they want to do is say how bad you want to see CM Punk get beat up. Why? So we have to listen to people say how fake wrestling is and how these men and women aren't athletes and they're not tough and their schedule isn't grueling. Come on, man. Whether you like, I can't stand Ryback. If Ryback went to UFC, I'm pulling for Ryback because he came from WWE and it shows that these guys are tough. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And for those people that say that, they're feeding in a propaganda because they have personal vendetta against those guys. To be honest with you, that's just pathetic to have that mindset. You know, I supported Batista when he went doing the MMA stuff. I supported Bobby Lashley when he was doing the MMA stuff. Hey, Lashley's character in TNA is really spawned by his USC persona. And it's really helped his career go up to the next level. All right, let me get into this before we head off here. Because, you know, I really feel bad at times where me and Adam don't get to hang out that much or get to go on his show. Because on Tuesdays, I'm stuck working and covering a product that is even more duller than WCW Thunder. Hell, WCW Thunder in 2000 takes this show and kicks his ass.
I think it also takes the cake for the worst video game of all time. WCW Thunder was putrid, but go on.
God awful. I actually have that game. To be honest. Man, my Nintendo 64 still works. It still works in the games. I haven't played it in a while.
WCW Thunder was Jericho's still frame where he had the top hat on, but go on.
Yeah. 1,004 holes, baby. Man, like, it's really I love when people say Raw is a chore. TNA is torture. I won't even call it a chore. There's no way a product is good when it's a 2-hour show and it feels like 4 hours long. It drags, and somebody can't tell me that this is the professional wrestling company. Remember, WWE, sports entertainment, TNA, professional wrestling. You can't tell me in today's professional wrestling that we need to see 12 fucking talking segments on one show and 4 matches.
And
only 4.
That's in 2 hours, so you figure that's 6 promos an hour.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a 2-hour show. Let's take out commercials. We're talking an hour 40 maybe. So within an hour and 40 minutes, We're having, I mean, that's, I'm not going to try to do the quick math today. I got to let my mind rest. It's 420. No, but if you look at so we have 12 promos in hypothetically 60 minutes. What do we talk about? 60 minutes, 40 minutes. Yeah. So about 100 minutes.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem right.
Five to six talking segments per hour.
Let me ask this, Josh. What do you think? Because I haven't watched TNA, and full disclosure, it's not because I don't like the talent that's there. I love EC3. I love Maria and Mike Bennett, or Mike and Maria Bennett. I love Mike Bennett more than Mike Bennett and Drew Galloway are two guys that I really wish would eventually go back or go to WWE. But I like the Hardy Boys. I like Matt and Jeff. I like so there are men and women there that I really want to see succeed. What are they doing right now, Josh? Like, what do you think that they're doing right that if they really sunk their teeth into it, they'd find a way to succeed?
I think the product, at least from a wrestling standpoint, like the in-ring action is good. I feel like the storylines are kind of repetitive, to be honest with you. I do like what they're doing with the X Division, where Shane Helms is kind of like the proprietor of the X Division now, and he's bringing all these guys. Hell, Andrew Everett made his debut on TNA last night. Now he's with Trevor Lee, so that's pretty cool. And you got Eddie Edwards now in the X Division. I think that's cool, but like, it's really bad when you watch the show and it's taped. For example, Drew Galloway's the champion, and he had the same gear on that he had last week, and he's coming out of the show with a black hoodie, and his ribs are all taped up. You're totally giving away that this show was taped immediately after the show you just finished last week. Yeah. And I don't look at spoilers, but I know that TNA tapes a lot of shows. Hell, this weekend, they're taping a lot of shows at Universal Studios. Actually, tomorrow they're actually taping at Universal Studios. And it's just like the TNA is like the product and a company, like a pest that never goes away. It always comes up to you. It's like that bully in high school that you always got to run into. You can't escape it. He's going to come here and talk some shit. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And this one day you just want to knock it out and just let it go for the rest of your life. Like, TNA, I do not want to be that guy that says, "Oh, companies should die" and just that. But TNA is not helping the wrestling market today. It's actually dragging it down. To be honest with you, what TNA is doing right now is showing how bad the business is from the pro wrestling standpoint. I'm not talking WWE. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not associate WWE with professional wrestling anymore. I do not. I can't, because that's not what that product is. But with the TNAs, the Ring of Honors, the Lucha Undergrounds, the New Japan Pro Wrestlings, the Evolves, the Shimmers, Revolution Pro Wrestling in the UK, and all these good products, they're giving pro wrestling a bad light as far as how to run a business. You have a cease and desist letter in Nashville, and now you bring your headquarters to the warehouse in the middle of Bumblefuck, Tennessee.
I think that's where they keep all the moonshine in Tennessee too. So John, let me ask this: do you think that even if they kept the same talent, and I still think the 6-sided ring needs to go. I think that's something that I don't think it ever fully caught on, and I think that's something that really pushes the casual fan away. And I think that you have to somehow figure out a way to bring in the casual fan, at least on a semi-regular basis, for your product to be successful. That being said, how do you think that if same talent, let's give them the traditional 4x4 ring, does a name change just help? Just getting rid of TNA altogether and rebranding is something completely different. Do you think that would make it at least aesthetically feel a little fresher?
No, I don't. And that's sad, because it should be that way. Yeah. But it's not. And I feel bad for Jeff Jarrett, because what the hell is this Global Force Wrestling? What they said they taped shows, but it's been a year now, and none of it's aired, and we haven't heard anything about it. So is Jeff Jarrett gonna do this GFW thing as a publicity stunt? or else it could be another thing where it ends up like another TNA. Because the last thing we need is the third edition of WCW in the 2000s era. That's the last thing we need on television.
I think, I mean, and I know that I might be a little biased by this, and I know Mike and Maria Bennett might not like this because they just came from there, but I would almost, if I was talent in TNA, I'd be running the Ring of Honor like wildfire. Because if you took Ring of Honor's talent and then you add on what TNA has to offer right now, and granted, guys, there's money and there's a lot of stuff, involved with that. But I think Ring of Honor, you could, when you combine those two companies, you have yourself a very, very competent and very competitive professional wrestling company that a lot of people will hold in high regard because people know that Ring of Honor knows how to put on a show. Ring of Honor understands wrestling psychology. Ring of Honor, I believe, is one of the most underrated products in professional wrestling across the world. I really do. I've never been disappointed in a Ring of Honor show. I've never been disappointed in anything that way. So I think that would be a kind of a smart move. But I don't know, man. I don't want to see these guys and gals. I don't want to see their careers just going to TNA to die. I want Mike and Maria Bennett to get to that next level. I want guys like EC3 to finally make his, Lashley, so many guys and girls that we've followed for years that I feel like TNA is wrestling's purgatory.
No, I feel like TNA is wrestling's MySpace.
Oh my God. Is that still a thing? I think it is, huh?
Yeah. Hey, Tom. Hey, Tom.
I think that's what people say about TNA too. It's a shame because they do have talent. How do you think they fix it, Josh? Like, honestly, how do you think they fix it?
I just think Dixie Carter needs to swallow her pride and say, call it quits. It's not helping the talent there. I feel sorry for them that they're in a position. But hey, you got to do what you got to do to make a living. If you have to work at, like I said, MySpace as opposed to Facebook and Twitter, hey, you're still making money. But
absolutely, I've said it a million times. I don't watch TNA, but listen, pay me, I'll be TNA's biggest fanboy. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Hey, your daughter would be a better booker than TNA is. That's neither here nor there. Yeah, bro, I said this a lot, and TNA just needs to pull a plug. But going to your Ring of Honor point, I could agree with you more. I love Ring of Honor. I love covering their pay-per-views. Another cool Chicago thing, they're actually the Ring of Honor Global Wars pay-per-view with New Japan is the day after my birthday at Chicago Ridge. We got Colt Cabana versus Jay Lethal in the main event for the ROH World Title. So that's pretty cool. I'll be covering that event. And I love Ring of Honor. I think it's a good product, but at the same time, Ring of Honor shoots themselves in the foot by not being willing to step out of the box, and they go in these random-ass Sinclair broadcasting channels. I get it. Sinclair owns Ring of Honor, but you need to step out of the box if you really want to be taken seriously. I don't know. I don't have Comet TV. I don't even know where it's at, to be honest with you, and it sucks.
And it's one too that I think that if Ring of Honor would step up the production quality just a little bit, it would really push them to the next level. I feel like whenever you watch Ring of Honor, the only thing that I would criticize them on, which doesn't mean anything because I'm just sitting in front of a computer, but I just think that production, if they made it look a little flashier, we don't need the giant Titantron, but if you just souped it up a little bit more to make it feel a little bigger, because again, a lot of times image is everything. So if you give us a little bit more on the production side, it does make it feel a little bit more big league.
Yeah. And final thing on this CNA thing, I feel bad. I take every challenge of doing these play-by-play articles as a time to study the business. That's when I get to study the product because I'm watching it and I'm breaking it down. I know there's a lot of journalists and they try to report the news and the dirt sheets and all that crap. Yes, I'm on WrestleZone.com, but I'm not a dirt sheet writer. I have to make that perfectly clear. I am pro wrestling's stenographer, if you understand where I'm coming from. I'm doing play-by-play articles. What I'm writing, I'm not saying anything that's not true. I basically tell you what's happening on the show.
You're like the at-home stenographer from Chappelle's show.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, player, we need to invite you all to the player haters ball. Just saying.
Yes. Yes. We should have a player haters ball episode.
I, that one guy was like, Rosie O'Donnell got dolphin teeth.
Oh no, that was Diddy. Diddy had them dolphin teeth.
Oh yeah, Diddy. Yeah, there you go.
Rosie O'Donnell wore
boy shorts.
I'm not gonna get there. Yeah, I'm gonna skip that one.
The next person that says something gets shot. Believe that. Oh God. Tonight, like I was saying, I love doing these play-by-play articles, but when I feel like TNA is a waste of my time, that's not a good thing for the pro wrestling side of the business. It's just not. I'm willing and able to study these products and cover it, and it's a blast doing them, but it's really a waste of time. And I feel I could be more of an asset doing shows with you guys than covering TNA. And I'm happy, I get paid for it. Whatever, it is what it is. But I feel like TNA is really a big waste of time. And we'll see what happens.
You know what, though, brother? You have to look at it this way. You probably know more about TNA than most other people, and especially most other fans. Send in a resume, man. You never know.
I don't know. I mean, do I have to pay $100 to send a resume? Like, I had to almost pay $100 to interview one of their wrestlers?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah. One of the bad parts of the media business, you got to deal with people that want to charge you money for a fucking interview.
Time is money. That's the unfortunate side of it. Time is money.
And you know what? Before we let go, is there anything you want to talk about, bro, before we head out?
Let me see here. I'm trying to think of some things. You know what? I want to get back on Jericho real quick. Josh, I'm a huge Jericho fan. We know that. It's not a secret. I want to get your opinion. Right now, where would you put Jericho right now in his, not only in his career, but do you think, I've said this for years, but it's because I'm a mark, I'll admit it, but where would you put what Jericho's work right now compared to what he's done in the past? And ultimately, where do you think, do you kind of get the feeling that Jericho not only is completely reinventing what a sports entertainer could and should be, but he's showing you what a 21st century professional or sports entertainer could and should be?
That point right there, he's showing you what a heel could be in the 21st century. And he says it, I'll bury them, I don't care. And he'll call you a stupid idiot for it at the same time. Jericho, he's one of those performers. I don't know if Stone Cold Steve Austin could be a heel in the 21st century. Honestly, The Rock says the same stuff. He plays the hits, if you will, the old music term. He plays the hits anytime he's on the screen. I mean, Triple H and Chris Jericho are the only two performers in the entire wrestling business right now that are showing how to be a true heel in today's wrestling business, with the exception of Bubba Ray when he has the time to speak by himself. Mm-hmm. Triple H and Chris Jericho they are once in a lifetime performers, and why I latch onto them, because they can evolve no matter what time period it is.
And it's the big thing is they understand entertainment. They are entertainers through and through. They understand wrestling, but they also understand entertainment. And that's half the battle, guys. It's not just wrestling anymore. And then, like I said earlier, we're never going to have the best wrestler. I don't want to say never, but typically we're not going to have the best wrestler as your champion, because if you don't understand the entertainment side of it and understand the branding side of it and understand the just crossover promotion side of it, you're not going to be WWE champ. And because that's what they need. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have a major spot on the card, but, this is something that, love him or hate him, and again, going back to Roman Reigns understands all of this. Guys, like Chris Jericho, understand that he doesn't need a championship to make the product better, make it, that ideally is what these men and women are trying to do this is, I guess, my point on this is the biggest complaint that I have with fans' reaction to WrestleMania is Sasha Banks didn't get her WrestleMania moment. Yeah, she did. She came out. Her entrance did more for her than winning the championship. It got crossed over into every major media outlet that Snoop performed at WrestleMania to bring out his cousin Sasha Banks, and she's going to be this next thing. That did more for her than winning the championship. I'm sorry, guys. It's not, wins and losses do not matter. They really don't. Sasha Banks is a bigger star now than Charlotte, and without the title. So why even rush her into the title at SummerSlam? I would even hold it off, I think, Josh, it's just, we get caught up on wins and losses so much that I don't know. I just think that sometimes we just have to see the big picture. Like you said, there's such a long picture, and we get so caught up in the moment. But that's what they want, and that's what they want out of these snap reactions. So,
yeah. WrestleMania is not next week. Payback's next week. So if Raw sucks next week, doesn't mean the whole rest of the year is going to stink. I mean, the world's not ending if one show is bad or not. And you know what? Like, going to your point, Sasha Banks could be in the company for a long time. She's not going anywhere. She could be a 10-time women's champion by the time she retires. So,
and why does everybody have to have one wrestle? Everyone goes, "Oh, that WrestleMania." Why can't you have multiple WrestleMania moments? You don't have. I mean,
you already had a WrestleMania moment, Adam. A women's match was one of the marquee main events of this year's WrestleMania.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Like I said before, look, if you at AT&T Stadium, the one side of the stadium, the matches that were featured were Roman Reigns, Triple H. It was Shane and Taker, and it was the women. It was the three women on gigantic on the side of AT&T Stadium. That to me, that tells you something. The reason why I bring it up, Josh, is there's been a lot of complaints going around about how, Becky now is feuding with Emma. We're probably going to get a feud with maybe Sasha and Summer, or so, Sasha's getting pushed to the bottom again. To me, the big picture is they're trying to make it a legitimate women's division so that it's not just about the title. We are going to have good side stories so that undercard matches are going to matter just as much as the title matches. So I think what they're doing isn't taking a step back for Becky Lynch. It's not taking a step back for Paige, maybe, because nobody really knows what's going on with Paige right now. But but when you look at Becky, you look at Sasha, especially Sasha, because everyone thinks, oh God, they're just burying Sasha. No, they're not. I think right now Sasha, almost like Roman Reigns, is in a position that she'll do the business more of a justice by helping elevate other talent to their level versus her just feuding with Charlotte for the next couple months. I'm sorry, guys, and I just don't get this rush mentality. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. At the same time, a lot of these second storylines that are going on right now, Adam, that's planting the seeds when the Authority comes back and you get a brand extension.
There you go.
See?
And especially when we have Shane versus Triple H and Stephanie later on, this is where it's all coming together, guys. We're gonna have Shane's crew versus Triple H and Stephanie's crew. And then it's all going to make sense. But right now, we have to sit there and go, it doesn't. It's too jumbled. It doesn't make sense.
We got a stacked pay-per-view, and we're worried about stuff that happened at WrestleMania.
And we're already worried about
that Shane's running Raw. The show's been good, right? That's what you wanted. You wanted Raw to be good. Shut the fuck up already.
And we want different. We want new. We want fresh. We've been begging for Emma to come up. So now Emma's going to feud with Becky, and it's going to be an awesome feud. And people are complaining. Why? I don't get it, man. I don't.
It's really fucked up this way. I agree with CM Punk. I think the fans are more bipolar than the business is, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think a lot of times guys don't like to hear it, but keep complaining about the longer you complain about Roman Reigns, the longer
he's going to feed in his pockets,
and the longer he's going to hold that championship. I think that the more, because if you're the guy that is creating the most buzz for the company, good or bad, you're creating curiosity for the casual fan.
You got to put your money where your mouth is. If you don't want Reigns to be in the decision, walk out of the building. Do not watch the shows, and leave the building when he's out there. That's making a statement. Don't run your mouth. You're just feeding in like the sheep you are.
There you go. That's the point. Thank you, sir. I guess.
You know, one last thing. Justin asked us on Twitter, do we think that WWE's over pushing Apollo Crews? No. We don't even know what his first feud is yet, buddy. I appreciate the question, but I don't know how he's being over pushed. I think it's a good thing that you actually have squash matches or enhancement talent matches, if you will. And they, like I told you earlier, they had a reason why that storyline was going on. So I don't think it's over pushed. I mean, yeah, he's a new guy. You would hope that to make him look good right off the bat, but I don't think they're overdoing it.
Nah, I mean, I think if anyone's getting over pushed right now, it's Baron Corbin. You know, and I understand he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or whatever the case may be. I understand they're trying to push him as this next big, whatever. But yeah. I think Apollo Crews is, and again, I mean, I don't want to make it seem like I'm down on Baron Corbin, but I think Apollo Crews is 10 times the athlete and 10 times the entertainer that Baron Corbin is. It just Corbin has a gimmick right now that they want to run with. I would prefer to see Apollo Crews pushed like I think Baron Corbin's over pushed. If I was going to say one person is over pushed right now, it's Baron Corbin. Apollo Crews, I do like what they're doing.
And this is going to be heat, but this is not my opinion. I want to make this perfectly. This is not Joshua Adam Lopez. By the way, Adam is my middle name. I'm not stealing off my brother's name, but it's my legal middle name. But I was talking wrestling with my dad. My dad's the one that got me hooked to wrestling. It was the connection I have with my dad just watching wrestling. And he told me that he feels that Sami Zayn is being shoved down his throat because he was watching SmackDown last week, and he's a casual fan. He doesn't look into like me and you do, but he's like, I don't get how a guy that comes up to the main roster first couple months already main eventing a SmackDown. So you have cash fans, and he told me that Sami Zayn is being shoved down his throat. So.
And the thing is, I can see it. I absolutely can see where he's coming from. And so I think it's whenever we take our criticisms, guys, and this is why we always try to take the more positive stuff, talk about the more fun stuff. We don't really beat down, I mean, yeah, we beat down the whole Roman Reigns thing because everybody else does, but it's so subjective to the individual viewer. Yeah. We all have somebody that we think is being overpushed. I'm not a Corbin fan. I can't stand the dude, to be honest with you. Personally, and there's a backstory to it, but I just don't like the dude, period. And I think he is being overpushed, but they see value in him. So that's not my call. I could make it, and I know I love him, but I could make a point that maybe Cesaro is being a little overpushed. Because he is very green on the mic still, guys. I know we don't like to hear that, but he is. That's why Miz had to carry the promo the other night. It's very subjective. We can't play it just for our favorites, guys. We have to look at it big picture and take every character and kind of end the subjectivity to it.
The sad thing about that is like when you try to look like what people think is right or wrong or bring in logic in wrestling, that's where the point where I come like to my deep end, because like if you try to make sense of what professional wrestling, Adam, is the most illogical form of entertainment in the world, and it's supposed to be that way. But when you try to make sense out of these storylines or why these guys are getting pushed or why this is happening or why that's happening, you come to the point where you're no longer going to be a wrestling fan. That's the point of wrestling. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to get you out of the real world. Comic books don't make sense all the time.
No, come on. Are you kidding me? Like out of that, there's 80 million Joker backstories, you know what I mean? Which is great. And if I'm forced to have a past, I'd prefer it to be multiple choice. But, and if anybody was read The Killing Joke, you would get that. But for me, it is, when you're little, you sit back and you question, okay, where is this going? But when you're older, you sit back and you question, why are they doing this? And in a way, what other form of entertainment do we say, why are they doing this? I would have done this, blah, blah, blah. You don't. You sit there and you wait to say, I wonder what's going to go on here. Because it is, again, I always go back to, if they can keep us on our toes where we're constantly guessing, we don't know what's going on. It might seem jumbled, but everything kind of ties in later on. I like that there's a lot of gray characters that are kind of slowly interacting. They cross paths. Josh, you've talked about this so many times. They're doing such a good job planting little seeds here and there so they can rekindle or go to a rivalry at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. And like in the movies, like when Batman and Superman came out, if I'm sitting there watching the movie, right, I'm not going to be like, oh, why is, if the movie's called Batman versus Superman, why is Clark Kent interviewing Bruce Wayne at a gala? You know what I mean? I'm not asking that question. You have to see how things play out. It's entertainment. This is not real life, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. And cool. Like we say it a lot. You can criticize what you want. It's cool. I understand that. but actually have a fundamental logical reason behind it. If you have complaints, actually have some logic behind it. Don't go
Right.
off what somebody says. That's all. That's my only thing. You can have any complaints. You could be the biggest complainer in the whole world. I don't care. That's your prerogative. But at least have some sense behind it.
And have some original ideas. Don't
Yeah.
copy and paste or just take what somebody else's complaint was and then run with that. Because then again, like he said, like Josh just said it, you're running as a sheep that's just you're just regurgitating stuff. And I'm not saying WWE is perfect, guys. Please don't.
No,
and nothing is. There's no business model that is. But I think when you look at a 3-hour show, it's hard to entertain anybody for 3 hours. Hell, Suicide Squad's a 3-hour movie. Watchmen was a 3-hour movie. And I'm not going to lie, part of me is dreading going to the movies to sit there for 3 hours. I think, I hope my back don't give out on me. My knees are going to lock up. How many times am I going to have to go to the bathroom? You know what I mean? Like little stuff like that. But it's hard. And on a weekly basis, entertain for really not just those 3, but the 6 hours that they do, plus maybe a pay-per-view, so maybe 9 hours. I mean, guys, there's a lot to write for. And I think that if we would just let them do their thing, let them breathe, and instead of questioning what's going on in the writer's room, question, I wonder what's happening with Bray's character. Instead of saying, oh, I can't believe they might be turning him face or whatever, just be like, this is interesting. Now let's see where they go with it. We live in such a cynical world that we've talked about. Go in with cynicism. You're not going to enjoy it no matter what you do. So.
Yeah, this is the 15th actual edition of the Daily Hour. I counted it.
Really?
Yep, this is number 15.
Wow! Holy cow, man! I am honored to have been part of 15 of your shows, brother. This is crazy.
One question before we go: are you down for next week?
Absolutely. You down for next week?
Yes, I am down for next week. On that note, we're going to wrap it up, boys and girls. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We see some cool viewership. I already saw some comments already on the show. And we thank all your guys' questions. We talked a lot today, a lot about wrestling. And usually on the shows, we try to bring in some personal aspects and give you some interesting life lessons. But today, we really got into the wrestling stuff, which I thought was a lot of fun. Hey, we're all marks at the end of the day. My whole thing with wrestling is try to enjoy it for what it is. At the end of the day, if you're going to try to make too much sense out of it, you're at a lost cause. So WWE logic, whatever logic, pro wrestling logic, it doesn't matter. It's not supposed to make sense. So at the end of the day, just enjoy wrestling. Payback's going to be lit next Sunday. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see what they do in Raw this Monday from Hartford, Connecticut, which is always a good crowd. It's going to be really interesting what other matches will be on the show. For me, I'll be covering Lucha Underground tonight. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Matanza, Dario Cueto's brother against Mil Muertes. That's going to be amazing. I'll be doing the SmackDown article tomorrow as well. If any questions you have for yours truly, you can just tweet me at WC Josh Lopez. Yes, I know. One of the bad things with the media business, and I don't like changing my Twitter handle. I really don't. But, some things are out of your control when it comes to business. And I am a media member, so I had to go with the brands and the media companies I'm with. So that's why I changed the Twitter accounts. I wish I could find one, but just like in wrestling, nothing is for sure. Nothing is guaranteed for a long time. So I apologize for people that had to scavenger hunt with what my Twitter handles are going to be. So you can send those to me at WC Josh Lopez. Follow Adam Daley at Adam Daley 13. Check out Wrestling With on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending when Adam and Sam record the show. It's a great show. Hopefully I get to be on next week to talk about Payback, since I'll be there. We'll see what happens. But like Sting says, nothing is for sure. We don't even have a full name for our new show me and Adam are doing. I don't even know if it'll be called the Pro Wrestling Experience. But like I said, the future, when it comes to the future, nothing is for sure. I'm Josh Lopez. That's Adam Daley. We're out. Hope you guys enjoy the show.